Can you believe that love is finding its way to you right now in this moment? That love, like an invisible friend, has been with you through every detour, through every challenge, and through every obstacle. A love so pure, so unconditional, and completely meant for you. This is the energy update for the 8th to the 14th of June 2026, and it's called the Silver Thread. Usually I do these updates half written and then I read them to you and I share my thoughts before and afterwards. Today, everything is different because I'm sure that you have felt this week too, where there are just so many delays, so many things in the way, and it's not necessarily bad or good or anything. It's just a lot and it's hard to stick to your routine. And if you're being honest, it's really difficult to be consistent, even with the things you love. I wish I could say that it gets better this week. There is more positive energy definitely this week than there is negative energy or disruptive energy. But there are two roads, and you've definitely felt that over the last week. Things are good. The problems that you're dealing with are annoying and frustrating, but they're not life-threatening. But they're sort of refusing to let you get anywhere else. Real time roadblocks is what I would put them as. And it's been, is the, is the way I would put it. And I did say that June is gentler, and it is because you have a lot of time to consider your options and to be intentional with what you decide to do. And you have the opportunity to wait for clarity, which I don't think we really had in May. And I don't think we had in March or April too. For me, this year really started in February. And we have been dealing with issues, I would say, from the last 6 months of 2025 that were quite big stories completing, final learnings, graduation classes. And this week, everyone's going to be talking to you about Venus conjunct Jupiter and how wonderful it is. And it is. But I'm going to talk to you about it from a different angle and a different way of reading it. And that's what I'm focusing on in the energy update this week. When I mapped out the ideas for this week or the readings I was having, the breathwork I wanted to drop was called Unconditional Love. And I picked it because I thought that this Tuesday was going to be all abundance, manifesting, and quite joyful. But what I found, especially in the build into it this week, with all of the solar flares that we've had from the 1st to the 7th, solar flares, X flares, M flares. And if you don't know much about solar flares, that is activity on the sun. And when the sun and those eruptions on the sun's surface is facing the earth, they travel towards the earth. And usually we think that they only disrupt radio waves and they don't really have an effect on humans, and they don't. Like, we wouldn't get ill. But for those that are energetically sensitive, solar flares are really disruptive. They make you more tired, more irritable. You can sometimes feel like you have flu-like symptoms. I can get really faint. I could be more hungry. Whole plethora of symptoms. And we've had multiple flares. And for the first 3 days, over this conjunction that everybody is talking about being so wonderful and abundant, we have a ton of solar. So even if you are having an abundant time, you're likely to feel more tired. You're likely to feel more lethargic. I feel like that's true of this whole year because it's really asking us to grow. I said it's talking about surrender, and I'm definitely going to get to that in this episode, but it's kind of not allowing us. We're still working with obstacles and delays, and what we're looking for is why. Oh, because you're meant to go in the other direction. No, not always, actually, not with this. Sometimes those delays I have found is they're about patience, or they're about asking you to realize what you have, to express more gratitude, to be in more gratitude, to go a little deeper, to not see it just from who you are right now, but to who you'll be in 10 years' time when you have all of that new wisdom and you're just like, if you're like me, please give me a break. Please give me a break. But I want to talk to you about this Venus and Jupiter action. And I want to give you some dates to reference back to. Now, Venus had a conjunction with Jupiter on August the 11th last year. In January, it had an opposition, January 9th. And now June the 9th is when they meet again as a conjunction. Conjunctions are always nice. It's when the energies or the planet's energies are close together and they're like hugging, embracing, sitting on each other's laps. I've said a few times, it depends on how the energies are interacting, but also it depends on how the story's been working for you. So track these times and we can be more general with them. And I'm going to throw in another date as well. I read energy also from my experience and from my clients' experience. And because this was quite profound for me when I looked this up, I've been asking a couple of my privates this week what was happening for them around these periods. And I've been really surprised at how love has been finding you. And of course, Venus is love, finances, all the things. And Jupiter is the amplification, usually beneficial. I always call it a kind Uncle dupes, generous Uncle dupes. And Venus is our inner goddess. I know that sounds so cheesy and so cliche, but it's true, right? Like, think of it when you are at your most confident, most sexy, and most alive. Yes, this for men too. We all have a feminine and a masculine side. Let's not get into the politics of all that, but energetically speaking, that's what we like to believe. So when you feel at your hottest with your money, your love, and how you are creating in the world, that's what Venus in this regard is about. Put those energies together. That's what the journey has been. I started to look at the other transits that talk to this one, that were part of this one. And look, this doesn't always work for everybody, but since you're here, I feel like you're probably feeling the things that I'm feeling. And working with this transit has really helped me to understand why things have been feeling so messy for me, even though I'm doing all the right things, and things are still feeling messy. Early August for me, literally on the conjunction, I was flying home to London and I didn't know if I had cancer. I didn't know if I was going to have a mastectomy. And I kept saying to my husband, I don't really want to know right now. I just want to go back for this trip. I want to go see Oasis with my best friends. And in case it is cancer, I just want to have this holiday. Oh my God, I got really emotional when I was doing this the other day as well. I felt like I was on a mission to find love. I was looking for love. I was looking for nostalgia, going to see Oasis, being with two of my best friends that I don't get to see because I live here and they live in Europe and I live in LA. Here is LA. It was, and I'm one of their husbands as well. Hi, Kevin. Kevin, Alex, Roz. And it was honestly one of the best weekends of my life. It's so wonderful to be with old friends and to go see a band that you love and to just be in a new place. We went to Dublin. Everything about it was really incredible. We bought the tickets the year before. We were so excited. And it was everything and more is the only way of putting it. And I felt like that whole trip, like going back to the place I grew up in, seeing my mom, seeing my in-laws, went to a friend's wedding as well. Just everything about it was a lovely, lovely trip. I got upgraded for free, which was lovely on the flight as well. There were just little droplets of magic and little bits of luck. I hadn't been feeling very lucky. I'd been going to the hospital twice a week. I was very scared about what was coming, but also, wanting to keep my business going, all these things. I talk about it enough, and anyone that's gone through a health scare understands all the feelings. And I'm sure that at our age now, right, all of us, we've either gone through a health scare, we've have a loved one who has. So we all know what I'm talking about. Let's look at this idea of 1111, the 1111 portal. Where were you? What were you doing? I was so ill post the first operation. So I wasn't even thinking straight then, like I was on such strong medication. But then January 9th, where there is this opposition, I was really sad. My mum had gone home. I'm even emotional now. My mum had gone home, quietening down after Christmas and the holidays, and I was exhausted as well. And now June 9, and what I was thinking about is, well, what am I actually doing on this day? Because I still can't go home at the moment. I can't go back to the UK. I can't go see my friends because I'm still having treatment for tell you about that another time. But on June 9, I have a really fun thing happening. I have one of my best friends is coming over for a breathwork with one of her clients. And it's so wonderful when your friends trust you with their important people. So the next Venus conjunction with Jupiter, the last one, I was with my friends feeling loved and supported and feeling terribly nostalgic and all the things, and really taking my mind off these quite big decisions I knew that were coming. And now on June, Tuesday, I get to take my best friend and her lovely client through this thing that I'm obsessed with and that I love. And when I think about it like that, rather than dealing with all of these minutiae, annoying problems that I've got going on at the moment right now with health insurance and with treatments and with all of that, I just keep thinking, oh, you were right about the unconditional love. Look at all the ways in which love has found you. You do have best friends, even though they're far away. And you do have good friends here in this new life that you've created. It's another lesson in not chasing. It's another lesson in surrender. But this time it felt like surrender is love, or love is a form of surrender. And I've been thinking, well, maybe that's the greatest form of surrender. And that's where I came to the idea of the silver thread. Now, I teach this a lot when I teach meditation, and usually at the end of my breath work, and sometimes even in the breath works, which is where I'm coming to the Gemini new moon. Don't think I've forgotten that. I work with this idea of threads, invisible threads. And I like to think that there are lots of them in our energy field, and we can pick them up and put them down and dissolve them and create new ones. And fundamentally, I believe that there is one silver thread that is stronger than all of them, and that is attached to your highest self or to your highest timeline. And that even when you're in your darkest moments or hardest moments or making difficult choices, all you have to do is pick up that thread and follow it. But that takes trust and surrender as well. Now, what my client was talking about in the same framework and same dates was her divorce and her journey with becoming single, and how it's taken so much love for herself to get through it and how great she is feeling now. But when she feels low about the last 10 months, it is about the love she's lost. And both of us were talking about how much we both need to keep reminding ourselves to honor the love that we've lost, to grieve it, but to never forget of all the love that you're gaining, because there is so much love finding you. Now, the one thing I will say about my operation, because it was the thing that made me very emotional when I was making the notes for this podcast and for the written version, is I'm having such a nightmare with health insurance. In my second operation in May, everything's gone well and I am okay, but there was a lack of oxygen in my body. They couldn't finish the operation as they wanted to. And we've all been watching my breast and my nipple to make sure it didn't die. I haven't had a ton of time to really grieve my body or to celebrate my body changing. And as someone that's always had like a bit of a complex body image and complex eating, and it's taken having to lose something twice or almost lose it, or lose it in one way and gain it in another, to realize that I need to stop being so hard on myself because I'm perfectly imperfect. And I'm always like, like we all were, always looking for the outcome, right? Like to drop those 10 pounds, to get into that dress. You can be a breathwork teacher. You can do the most holistic things in the world and still have very, very human and vain and ego tendencies. And that's okay. It really is okay. And it's also okay to want to be and feel your best, and whatever journey you go on for that. But what I've realized about me in this journey and this Venus-Jupiter arc is how much more unconditional love I need to give to myself, and how much more unconditional love I need to realize is everywhere. And a big thing for me, as I've been feeling really challenged in the last 6 weeks, even before the operation, and definitely after it, oh my gosh, it's so difficult dealing with health insurance people, is I've been like, where's my dad? My dad usually sends me a lot of help, or my guides, my dad and my guides, or my future self. I don't know what's happening. There's usually a lot of positive energy, even when I feel pretty low. And I have felt like there isn't any. But in May, I've been like, how do you need to resource yourself more? How do you need to show up for yourself more? How do you need to take that big breath and stand up for yourself? And what I found today in particular is that I'm okay to deal with this stuff without my dad and without the help. And I should be asking, or should be feeling, can I still feel all of that protection, all of those guides around me? And working on that rather than trying to get like that sort of help me please energy. I had a notice from the insurance. I mean, this is going to be an ongoing conversation between you and I until this is dealt with, because it's just taking up so much space. But they sent an email today saying that we're not changing our minds. That's the third time they've said that. They said that we're not changing our minds, but can you get your provider to send us a bill and we'll look at it? Which is the most positive thing that they've actually said so far. So I was like, wait, we'll take that win. But then I opened up my community and I was doing a little work, and I noticed that 5 or maybe even more of my workflows, so the automations that sit behind my business to keep the business going, had failed. And the whole of May, I'd been working with the Circle team to fix just one of the workflows that had failed. And now today, 5 or 8, I can't even remember, totally have broken, which means I've got to rebuild all of them. And I can't tell you how little time I have next week to do this. But I was just like, well, okay, what is that teaching me? And what it's teaching me is that you didn't like your workflows. This is your opportunity to rebuild parts of your business from a place of love and from understanding what wasn't working before. And you kind of need to grow up, Daisy, because it isn't your fault, but it is your job to fix these things. And sometimes that happens in life. Same with the insurance. So when you're looking at all of these complications, detours, obstacles, and delays, challenges, how is love finding you in that? How is love finding you? Because it is. And when I forced myself to look at it from that situation, I said, well, yeah, I can now rebuild from a place of, I can build better workflows. I can update those emails. I can give people what they want because lots of new people in the community. Why haven't I just chosen to do it? Why have I waited for my hand to be forced? I mean, there's a ton of reasons. I could go back and forth on why that hasn't happened, but that's okay. So let's recap those dates for you. Tuesday, considered to be the most abundant day of the year. Venus conjunct Jupiter. The last time they were conjunct was August 11. So what was happening for you around that midpoint of August? And you can do whatever you like with that. You can look at August as a holistic whole and talk to yourself about how love was finding you there. November 11, that's when Jupiter went into retrograde. And it just feels like there's a connection with this whole sort of story completing, especially because they won't meet again, Venus and Jupiter Jupiter in Cancer until like 2037. I don't want to give you that as like a dead on date because I haven't checked it, but from what I can remember, it's like 10 years away because lovely Jupiter moves into Leo at the end of the month. So this isn't going to happen again. And when you think about it like that, what is it? What is the story that's completing here for you from the Venus aspects? So August 11 or around then, 11th of November or around then, 9th of January or around then, and 9th of June. Is there a through line? For me, of course, it's going to be dominated by the whole mastectomy and cancer scare. But for my client, it was dominated by her divorce. Like, what big story do you have? And it doesn't even need to be like big. I know that I've just given you two examples of very big on the outside, but you could have gone up through a profound change that is on the inside. You know, last week we talked about the caterpillar, the cocoon, and zero control. This is exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing, but read from a different energy standpoint. It doesn't surprise me that there are energies taking us through the same life lesson, but for different graduating classes. And that's wonderful and that's lovely. I'm really interested to hear which class you're falling into. Please tell me in the comments. Always tell me in the comments. And those are the dates that I would focus on to tell your story about unconditional love, how love is finding you. Because I do think that love and surrender will find us in whatever form you can actually receive it in. This actually does bring me on perfectly to the rest of the podcast because I really do feel like I have been hitting a lower ebb. Are you? It's been hard not to believe that everything is bad or everything's falling or everything's crumbling. That means love finds me in that form. So I'm still having a crumbly experience with my health insurance, but it's still love in its way. It's teaching me how much I'm fighting for my own body and fighting for what I think is fair and right to help me heal. don't really want to learn that lesson. I think that last week told that story as well. This week tells that story. But what happens next in this 8 to 14 is that there are 5 major energies transits next week, and 3 are really positive and 2 are a bit wobbly. Now, one of the wobbly ones, which is Mercury squaring Saturn, happens on the same day as this sort of superabundance day on Tuesday. But this Mercury square could feel a little heavy, a little roadblocky, a little difficult. And that exists on this day that everybody out there in the world is saying is the most abundant day of the year. So you've got to choose on Tuesday to keep seeing it as abundant, even if you're like me and you're hitting roadblocks and delays and detours. And keep asking yourself, well, how does unconditional love live in this? And how does it live in me in this day, in this issue? And then move on, because these transits moved quite fast this week. And then here's the other sort of big, moment of the week in terms of wobbliness, and that is Uranus squaring. So it's another square. So the 2 wobbly moments of the week are these 2 squares, the lunar nodes. Now, I love the lunar nodes. They are exciting to me. They are roads of fate and destiny. What you're leaving behind, what was your life lesson previously that you need to outgrow, and what you are walking towards. What is your soul destiny, your path? Squaring Uranus, never going to be a fun time. What I like, though, about this day, and what here again, where you can find the positive, is this does force a choice. So if you've been feeling like you're in a place where you want to give it surrender and want to let the change happen for you and just allow these things to figure themselves out, fated energy with the lunar nodes, they're always fated energy, destiny energy. This is very much about giving up the plan, the surrender element, and what you actually need versus what you'd quite like or what you'd quite want. That's on Friday. And then Saturday, we have this wonderful Venus having another moment in the week where she enters Leo. And that really does, loud up the love, the abundance. So you have that second nugget in the week where abundance becomes a key player and a key point, and it's going to make you feel optimistic and motivated even if everything's messy around you. And you've just got to keep opting to feel that Venus energy this week. And then we end on a new moon in Gemini, and this is the ultimate giver of clarity, of clear decision making, of the silver thread. And I actually wrote the whole Gemini new moon breathwork, which is up in the free community, about this silver thread. And I wrote it way in April. I didn't even really understand that the week that I was dropping the Gemini breathwork was the same week that there was this Venus conjunct Jupiter, where you're following really a silver thread about unconditional love. What does this whole week tell you about what you want clarity on, what you want to see come to life? Because I do think there are 2 paths. I know that I've said it about the actual week where there's a lower ebb and a higher ebb, low road and a high road. But I think that right now we are living between 2 timelines, and it's why we sort of wake up quite jarred. It's why things keep disappearing. And we have to keep choosing the highest timeline. Right now, both paths are visible. And I would say even with your lower timeline versus the higher timeline, that lower timeline doesn't completely look terrible. That's why we keep sort of defaulting to it. And it's also full of our old patterns and our old familiarity. And this is where it links to the Friday, where we're talking about the nodes of fate, the lunar nodes, and that fated energy. There will be things that I can't even tell you right now that will suddenly make sense by the time we wake up Monday next week, the 15th. So until then, what have you learnt about yourself? Focus on the love. Focus on the unconditional love and all the surprising ways in which it is finding you. What happens when you don't chase? What happens when you sit still? And what is it that you really, really, really do want that you're willing to commit to on the Gemini new moon? Because it will bring you right time, right information. But you've got to be clear on what you're asking from quick thinking Gemini. Okay, that was a bit of a longer pod, but frankly, it's been a week. We needed to chat, didn't we? So I love hearing from you. Please keep dropping into the comments. I am back at work now, so I'm replying to everything. And I just really want to know whether you've had a similar experience to me with this silver threads, unconditional love, with the Venus through line with Jupiter. And I just want to know that you're okay. So drop into the comments if you want to try the Gemini new moon breathwork. That's in the free community. The unconditional love breathwork is in the premium community. That's a paid for side, but it is a free trial in there. And that drops on Tuesday. I look forward to hearing from you, and I look forward to seeing how this week worked out for you. See you next week.